Hello, so in the last video we looked at how to do variables and how to use variables in our programs, and in this video now we're going to move on to look at if statements. If you're not familiar with variables and you haven't seen the last video yet, I'd recommend you go back to it because we will be using some variables in this in these tasks. So an if statement is just a way of making a decision in a program. So sometimes you don't want a bit of code to run all the time. You want to make a decision and then decide if that code runs or not. So task 3.1, we want to ask the user to enter a word, and if they have entered the word magic, then we change the character's color. So the hint for this one is you can find that change color effect block in Lux. And basically what we want to do is if the user has entered the word magic, then it changes the character's color. So only if they entered that word. If they enter any other word, it shouldn't do anything. So for this task, you'll need to use a block called an if block. I'll just show you what that is first of all, and then I'll let you have a go at the task. So in control, so this is kind of telling you, the reason it's called control, because it controls the flow of the program. It's the way the program flows. And this block is an if block. If then, so you can see it's slightly different to most blocks we would have used so far. You've got this weird gap, and that is where you put a condition. And then here is another gap where you put whatever code you would like to run if the condition is true. So say if I wanted to check if, let's see, what should I do? If 5 is more than 2. So that's true. If I want to run this code and say hello. So if 5 is more than 2, then what the character will do then is it will say hello. And 5 is more than 2, so if I click green flag, he says hello. But if I do if 2 is more than 5, what will happen this time? So let's test it out. Click the green flag, nothing happens. And that's because this code inside the if block, it only runs if this condition, so this kind of diamond shaped block, if that is true. 2 is not more than 5, so this code doesn't happen. If this block is true, if 5 is more than 2, then this code inside the if block will run. Okay, and you can add as many blocks inside the if block as you want, and it'll do all those blocks if the condition is true. So using that, I want you guys to try and do the task, which, to remind you, was ask the user to enter a word. If they enter the word magic, then change the character's color. And this is a block you could use to change the color. Okay, if you want to see a flowchart for that to help us see the structure of the program, then if I go back here to task 3.1, I can zoom in a bit. So when the green flag is clicked, I want to ask the user to enter a word. So remember how to take a user input? We use the ask block that you would have seen in the last video. We then store the word as a variable. So remember how to use variables? You'll need to have a look back at the other video if you can't remember. And then we use an if block. If the word is equals to magic, so if they type in magic, then we change the color of the character. If they don't type in magic, if they type in anything else, then it goes straight to the end. Nothing happens. Have a go at the task, pause the video, and then come back once you've tried. Okay, so in order to do this task, I first need, of course, the green flag block. Just zoom in, needs to make them bigger for you. And then what's the next step? I need to ask the user to enter a word. So I need to ask the user, find the ask block in sensing, enter a word. Then the next step, I store the word. So I need to set a variable. So remember, click on variables, make a variable, And this one I'm calling word. And I set the word to be the answer to the question, which is this blue answer block you need to use. Like that. Whatever they type in will be stored in the variable word. Now we need to use an if block. Because it's only one branch, so if you look at the branches, if it's yes, you go down this way. If it's no, you go straight to the end. So the no branch doesn't do anything different. It just goes, it skips this step. So because we only have a block on one of the branches, the yes branch, we don't actually need an if else, which is a slightly different block. What we need is just an if block. So we just need an if block, not an if else for now. We'll use them later. And we want to check if the word is equals to the word magic. So if we go here, use an equals block, if the word they typed in is equals to magic. Now what's good about Scratch is you don't have to worry if they typed it in capitals or lowercase, it doesn't matter. It just checks the letters. If all the letters are there and it's in the same order, make sure you don't have any spaces after it because that will affect it. Okay. Now what we want to do, if the word is magic, we change the color of the character. So down here, you should see one that just says change color effect by 25. And that's a program. We don't need to put anything else. That's the end of the program once it's done this. So just test it out. If I put in any word that's not magic, just put some random letters, nothing happens. But if the word is equals to magic, if the word is magic, now the character has changed color. So this changes the character's color. If I did it again, put magic in again, you see it goes to green. So that's task 3.1. The next task then, 3.2. Ask the user of your program to write their school year. If their school year is less than 7, then say they are in a primary school, or they are in primary school. Otherwise, they are in secondary school. So otherwise, say they are in secondary school. Okay, now for this one, I'll just show you the flowchart, show you how it's different. So remember, this one, we only had one block coming off the yes before it went to end, and there was nothing on the no branch. There was no other block. With this one, now what we're checking is if the year is less than 7. If that's true, then we say you were in primary school. But if it's false, if it's not true, then we do something else. We say you're in secondary school. And because we're doing something else, we need to use an if-else block. So you'll need to use, I'll go back to the program. Instead of this if block, you will need to use an if-else. If something is true, then you do this. But if it's not, then you do whatever you put in the else part. Okay, have a go at it. Pause the video now and then come back once you've tried it. Okay, so what I want to do is, again, very similar thing. I don't need to change much about this, because if we look at the flowcharts, again, I'm taking an input and I'm storing it. That's the first 2 steps. So I take an input and I store it, but this time we're asking for their school year. Enter your school year. So do I want it to be called word? That doesn't make much sense. Okay, we always want the variables to make sense. So what I'm going to do to make this as quick as possible, if I right click on the name word, the variable block there, then I can rename it to be year. So I set the year to answer. And that's when I need to use an if else, because I do something if it's true, but I do something else if it's not true. I need an if else block. And the condition is always what's in the block here. So if the year is less than 7. So if we need a less than, if year is less than 7, then what do we do? Well, if it's less than 7, we say, so if it's less than 7, we say this way, sorry, you are in primary school. If it's more than 7, so the other option, so if it's not less than 7, sorry, if it's not less than 7, no, then we say you are in secondary school. Oops, secondary. Okay, and we test out the program. Ask me for an input. If I put the number 5 in, 5 is less than 7, so that is now true. The year is going to be less than 7, so it's going to say you are in primary school. Okay. We run it again. If I put in the number 10, what's it going to give me back? So the year will be 10. If 10 is less than 7, is that true? No, it's not. So we do the else. It's going to say you are in secondary school. Okay, there it goes. What will happen if I put 7 in? Have a think. So if I put 7 in, then if 7 is less than 7, well, can 7 be less than itself? No, it can't. So that isn't true, which means it'll still say you are in secondary school. Because if you're in year 7, you are in secondary school. Okay, and that's task 3.2 done. 3.3, ask the user of your program to write their favorite color. If they enter blue, get the cat to make a meow sound. If they enter any other color, change the size of the cat. So these are the two blocks you would need to use. You've got a play sound until done, and you've got set size. Now you'd have to change the number in this block to get it to work. If you're just setting the size to 100%, then it's just going to say, it's going to just stay that size that it already is. So maybe put 200 in there to make it twice as big. Okay, so that's the task. You should be able to do this now without much help. It's very similar to the last task. It's just you're doing different things if it's true or false, and the condition is different. So have a go, pause the video. Okay, so the flowchart for this one, again, I'll just undo that, is very similar. It's exactly the same process, but we're just changing kind of the outputs and what we're asking the user for and the condition. So in our program, I'm going to just change this to be enter your favorite color. And I can rename the variable year to something more sensible, because they're entering colors. We'll just put color in. And then I want to check if the color is equal to blue, if they've typed in blue. If they have typed in blue, just check the flowchart. If that's true, yes, play a sound. So I need to go to sounds, play sound meow until done. If it's not blue that they've typed in, then we change the size of the cat. So where's change size? That'll be in lux. So I've got set size. I'll change it. I'll use set size instead, and I'll make it twice as big. Okay, so I'm setting the size to 200%. And that's that task. If we try it out. So if I type in blue, I don't know if you'll be able to hear this. I'll put my headphones next to it. Okay, so it plays a meow sound. And if I type in anything else, if I type in green, you should see the size of the cat now is going to double. Okay, so it's got twice as big. And you can see under the screen it says size 200. So that's how you would do that task. If you wanted to, you could change it to use change size. So every time you do a color that's not blue, it's going to get slightly bigger. I'm changing it by 10 every time. Okay. Anyway, the last task is a challenge task. So you want the program to ask the user to enter their score from a test. So they pretend they've done a test. You want them to enter their score. If their score was more than 17, then we say, amazing, well done. If their score was 17 or less, then we need to check if their score was more than 10. If it was more than 10, say, not bad, but you can try again. And otherwise, so if it's not more than 10, we need to say, you need to study more. Okay, so there's 3 different outcomes here. You could say amazing, you could say not bad, or you could say you need to study more. It depends on their score. So this one's quite tricky. You want to think about how you're going to do it. Okay. So in order to do this one, I'm just going to set the cat back to the normal size. I'm going to go to the flowchart. So with this one, again, similar thing at the start. Ask them for the score. We store the score. And then if the score is more than 17, that's what we're checking first. Because the task said if it's more than 17, if that's true, we say amazing, well done. And then we end the program. So that one's quite easy. If it's more than 17, we do that. But we're going to be doing something else if it's not. So if no, so else, we need to have another if. This time checking if the score is more than 11. So in the else branch, there's going to be another if, but here we're doing 2 different things. If it's yes, we do one thing. If it's no, we do something else again. So we're going to have an if-else block, and then in the else branch, we're also going to have another if-else block. And that will give us 3 possible outcomes from our program, which will all then end the program. So this one's quite tricky. But you could use this if you had a game that or a quiz and you wanted to give it a message at the end depending on their score. You could use this program to do that. So I need an if else. If I delete these blocks. I don't want it to be color this time. Enter your score. So I could change the variable name, right click, rename, call it score. And this time the condition is if the score is more than 17. So if more than, and we need to put score more than 17. So let's go through branch by branch. If it's more than 17, what do? We say amazing, well done. So say amazing, well done. If the score is more than 11, so what do we do if it's not more than 17? We then need to check if it's more than 11, and we have 2 things coming off it. So we need to have another if-else block. Okay, so in here, another if-else block, and it's in the else branch. So it goes inside like this. So you've got an if-else in the else branch of the first if-else. This is what we do if it was more than 17. If it wasn't more than 17, then we need to have another if else. The second thing is to check if the score was more than, I think it was 10, or if it's more than 11. Is that what my task says? Let's just check. Ooh. Should be 10. Again, this flowchart is not quite right. Doesn't make too much of a difference. But if the score is more than 10. If that's true, we say not bad, try again. So I want to check if my score is more than 10. This time I say not bad, try again. So I've done that branch, and that outcome is there. We've got the amazing well done, we've got the not bad, try again. But we also need to have, so we've done these two, we also need to have what happens if the score was less than 10, if it wasn't more than 10. We need to say this, you need to study more. And that is in the else branch. It's kind of the no branch, the else branch. In here. So this last one is you need to study more. Okay, and then that ends the program. There's no more blocks after that. So that's the full program there. If we click play, if I scored 20 in the quiz, then I get amazing well done. It was more than 17. If I score 15, not bad, try again. It was less than 17. 15 is less than 17, so it went to the else part, and then it checked, is 15 more than 10? It is, so it went into the if part, the true part. What would happen if I put in 9? So if the score more than 17, is 9 more than 17? No. We go to the else. Is the score more than 10? Is 9 more than 10? No. So we go to the else again. We're going to say you need to study more. Okay. Now, why is this is the correct way of doing it. What is the problem? So I'm going to give you an extra task, something to work out here. If I did it this way, if the score is more than 17, say that. If the score is more than 10, say that. Say this one. And if the score we need less than 10 here, or less than 11 maybe. I just delete that other block. You need to study more. What's the problem with this task now? So I've got, if the score is more than 17, say amazing, well done. If the score is more than 10, say not bad, try again. If the score is less than 11, then say you need to study more. So the problem is that if my score is 20, we get to this point, score is more than 17, yes, it's going to say this. But then it's going to check the next if. If the score is more than 10, and it is, 20 is more than 17 and 10. So it'll actually end up saying both of these things. The only one it won't say is this, because that says if score is less than 11. So if I show you, if my score is 20, it'll say amazing, well done. And then it's going to say not bad, try again as well. And that's the reason I had to use the other way of doing it, using the if else. There is one other way you could do it using and block. So you could say if the score is more than 10 and the score is less than 17. That's another way to get around it. Okay, so that's the challenge task. Hopefully you understand selection in programs and how to do it in Scratch a bit more. I think in the next video now we'll be looking at how to use loops to repeat things. How do we repeat instructions? And that'll probably be the last video. So see you in the next one.